Hey everyone, Jubitaz back with another video, where today I'll actually go back and visit one of my older videos, Sage Mode versus the Mangekyo Sharingan. Channel veterans will remember this one. You see, a lot of you guys rightfully pointed out how my voice was a bit too low in comparison to the OST, which kinda ruined the original video for quite a bit of people. And it was a shame because it was actually a really cool topic, so I decided to just redo the entire video. Sage Mode or the Mangekyo Sharingan, which is the better power-up. Like, say if Mr. Krabs was an Uchiha and witnessed his cash register catch on fire, and in a fit of rage, awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. And say if Plankton got sick of capitalism and all the material possessions that he moved to Mount Nioboku to become a sage. And then the both of them had to fight to the death. Which one would win? Well, I think you guys see where I'm going with this. Now, let's begin, shall we? Let's start off by explaining how each ability can be obtained. And man, are they different. Now, there are actually different types of Sage Mode or Senjutsu that can be learned, but they mostly differ in appearance rather than abilities. Usually, a person will have to go and learn these abilities in faraway lands where the sage creatures live, like Mount Nioboku, the Ryuchi Cave, and the Shukotsu Woods. Naruto, Jiraiya, and Minato trained with the Toad Sages, and hence they can develop frog-like features, unlike say Kabuto, who trained with the Great Sage Snake, so he has more of a snake-like appearance, and even has a snake emerging from his body, which is bizarre. Hashirama's Sage Mode most likely originated from Shukotsu Woods, since that's where Hashirama's granddaughter's summon, Lady Katsuyu, is from. Despite the superficial differences, all Sage Mode users capitalize off of one thing, nature energy. You absorb the natural energy around you and blend it in with your own chakra. Through that, you awaken Sage Mode. Now, it's not that simple, of course. You have to train how to absorb and control natural energy with one of the great sage animals. In order to gather the natural energy, one must remain still and become one with nature. The problem is that if one absorbs too much natural energy, they begin to develop features that resemble the sage animal they're learning from, and the natural energy can override their body and turn it into stone. Natural energy is hard to control, and if it overtakes your body, then you're done for. At least that's how it works for Toad Sage Mode. You also need a body that can tolerate it. Orochimaru's body couldn't handle the natural energy due to his body transfer ritual. When it comes to the Mangekyo Sharingan, it's very different from Sage Mode in the sense that not just anyone can obtain it. The Mangekyo Sharingan is an evolved Sharingan, a visual jutsu exclusive to the Uchiha clan. So unless you have an Uchiha best friend that's gonna give you his own eyeball on his birthday, or you go looting through the trash for that clansman's eyeballs, chances are you're not getting your hands on these crazy eyes. The Mangekyo Sharingan can't be taught. Instead, it is awakened when an Uchiha that already awakened the base Sharingan experiences a deeply scarring or traumatic event, such as witnessing the death of a loved one, which is how the bulk of the Uchiha characters awakened their Mangekyo Sharingan. Itachi awakened his after Shisui's death, Sasuke awakened his after Itachi's death, and Obito awakened his after Rin's death. Kakashi also awakened his Mangekyo, or evolved Obito's left eye, at the same event, but it seems like it took him years to actually master how to use it. It goes without saying that the Mangekyo Sharingan is one of the strongest abilities in the verse, and anyone that possesses it is automatically Kage level. On top of enhancing the user's base Sharingan abilities like the enhanced perception, as well as basic Sharingan Genjutsu, the Mangekyo provides the user with two abilities that are unique to each user, one ability per eye. Now, going over every ability that's granted by the Mangekyo can call for its own video, but I'll go over them briefly now. The Amaterasu, the ability to manifest black inextinguishable flames. Kagutsuchi, manipulating the shape that the black flames take on. Tsukuyomi, Genjutsu, where one can control the victim's perception of time, making them live out days in less than an instant, like a picosecond according to the novel. Koro Amatsukami, another Genjutsu where you can control a person's mind without them even knowing about it, that doesn't even require eyesight. Kamui, a space-time ability where you can open portals to another dimension and even shield yourself by teleporting parts of your body into said dimension, making yourself intangible. Both Koro Amatsukami and Kamui have slightly different versions per the left and right eye. There's also Madara's unnamed Mangekyo ability to reverse the flow of time itself from the Ninja Storm Connections game. So yeah, there's no shortage of broken abilities when talking about the Mangekyo Sharingan. And on top of that, if you possess both your eyes, you can manifest a humanoid chakra avatar named the Susanoo, which can be used both offensively and defensively. And this avatar can also wield different weapons based on the user. Sage Mode, on the other hand, is set to boost a person's stats in ninjutsu, genjutsu, and even taijutsu. On top of that, Sage Mode enhances one's sensory skills since they can use the natural energy to sense their surroundings. It's how Kabuto was able to fight both Itachi and Sasuke after having cut off his own eyesight, as he didn't want to risk getting caught in Itachi's genjutsu. Sage Mode also enhances the user's physical strength, seen as how Jiraiya and Naruto are able to casually lift and throw around massive pain summons. In addition to all of that, proficient enough users of Senjutsu can actually utilize the natural energy around them offensively, like how Naruto was able to land hits on opponents without having to make physical contact with them, or how Kabuto was able to alter the terrain of the cave that he fought Sasuke and Itachi in by breathing life into inorganic substances. Sage Mode can also grant users access to other great techniques like the demonic illusion Toad Chant Confrontation, a sound-based genjutsu performed by the two great Elder Sage Toads, and in Hashirama's case, summoned this massive 1,000-armed Buddha statue that makes the nine-tailed fox look like a squirrel. So yeah, definitely not an ability to underestimate. Now of course, both abilities do have their shortcomings. In the case of Sage Mode, the main issue is that one has to remain still to gather the natural energy, which can leave them vulnerable to counterattacks. That's why it was difficult for Jiraiya to gather the natural energy while fighting pain. But of course, most combatants have ways around that. For example, when Jiraiya has the Sage Toad's Ma and Pa attached to his shoulders, they can remain still and gather the natural energy for him while he engages his opponent. Naruto would let his clones gather the natural energy for him, and once released, the energy they gathered would be transferred directly to him. He's even found a simpler method for gathering nature energy later on when he befriends Kurama, the nine-tailed fox. He can engage the enemy and have the fox gather the natural energy on his behalf, which is even more convenient than using clones. As for Kabuto, due to the collection of DNA he had in his possession, he implanted some of Jugo's DNA in order to get Jugo's clan's Kekkei Genkai, one which allows the users to absorb natural energy through their skin. That's why Jugo would undergo these crazy transformations and lose his sanity, as his body would absorb too much natural energy and it would begin to overtake his body. This way, Kabuto didn't have to remain still to collect natural energy and could enter Sage Mode with ease. It also seems like if you're just a really high caliber shinobi, you can collect natural energy and enter Sage Mode immediately, like the first Hokage. The fourth Hokage could also go into Sage Mode almost instantly with no deformities. However, he didn't consider himself to be a perfect sage due to how short his Sage Mode lasted. Now when it comes to the Mangekyo Sharingan, the handicaps seem to be a lot more severe. For one, just using the Mangekyo is very exhausting for an Uchiha, and it takes quite the chakra toll, which is why Sasuke and Itachi seem to be in excruciating pain when forced to use their hacks, and are usually bleeding out their eyeballs. However, it's unknown how much of the bleeding's been exacerbated by the terminal illness in Itachi's case. It seems like using the Susanoo's even more draining than that. Sasuke describes it as feeling pain in every cell in his body. What's more is that the Mangekyo Sharingan eventually loses its light, as in, excessive usage of these eyes will eventually render the user blind. Once the user goes blind, he loses all of the abilities granted to him by the Mangekyo Sharingan. These shortcomings of course do have a remedy, just like Sage Mode, but it's a lot more difficult to obtain. In order for someone to extend the duration of their abilities, they must awaken the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, in which they would have to find a Mangekyo Sharingan belonging to a close relative and implant those eyes in themselves, so that those eyes can find eternal light within the new host. Now, the Mangekyo Sharingan is a rarity in itself, so to find a close relative that possesses them, chances aren't very high. So what do you do then? Well, there may be another way around it. Now, what I'm about to say isn't explicitly stated anywhere, but it's commonly accepted within the fandom. If one has an enhanced healing factor, like say, possessing the DNA of the first Hokage, the same guy that could regenerate without waving hand seals, then the blinding effects, as well as the overall chakra toll that the Mangekyo Sharingan causes, can be alleviated. It's how Danzo, a non-Uchiha, was able to use Shisui's Mangekyo, and it's often accepted as the reason why Obito never goes blind even though he spams his ability like a madman. Hashirama's cells probably healed the person from the excruciating effects experienced by the MS, and that includes blindness as well. And now we're ready to answer the question posed in the beginning. Which ability is the stronger amp? And I wish that it was a simple question to answer, as the abilities granted by the Mangekyo Sharingan are both various and distinct. Sage Mode is the better amp when it comes to boosting one's physical strength. However, since the MS grants the user the ability to manifest Susanoo, and the Susanoo has more offensive power in comparison to say Sage's punches, then maybe an MS user would be stronger physically with the Susanoo active. Both abilities grant the user enhanced sensory skills. However, I will say that Sage Mode has a more well-rounded sensing ability, as the MS user only has visual sensory skills, while the Sage Mode user can use the natural energy to sense their surrounding, so it's not limited to just their vision. Now, in terms of pure hacks, the Mangekyo Sharingan definitely trumps Sage Mode, as it gives users abilities that surpass the concepts of space and time itself, as well as a lot of one-shot abilities that you really can't do much about. Like, no matter how strong your Sage Mode is, what are you gonna do if your opponent teleports you to a different dimension? Or if your opponent mind controls you and you can't even tell that he's doing so? There's even an ability exclusive to the Sharingan where in exchange for the vision in one of your eyes, you have the ability to manipulate reality and erase any outcome not in your favor. So yeah, you see what I mean by hacks, broken one-shot abilities. The Mangekyo Sharingan is just unrivaled in that regard. I will say that realistically, Sage Mode users do have an edge when compared to MS users, as although it's not easy to gather the natural energy, it doesn't seem to be as draining as the Mangekyo Sharingan. You also don't lose your vision, and as long as you know how to control the natural energy absorbed by your body, there don't seem to be as many negative side effects as the Mangekyo Sharingan. Of course, you can bypass these limitations by taking the MS of a close relative, but the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan is considered to be its own visual jutsu. Even the eye pattern design is different and looks like a combination of both MS. And then there's Obito, of course, but Obito's just broken. We've already spoken about how broken this man's is like a million times in this channel. Bro survived the entire weight of a cave, a sea of 800 billion paper bombs, having his heart ripped out, having the 10 tails extracted from him, and performing Rinne Rebirth. Blindness ain't shit to this guy. Now, I wanted to give this extra section talking about the even more advanced transformations of both these modes. Six Paths Sage Mode versus the Rinnegan. Six Paths Sage Mode is like Sage Mode but amplified like 100-fold. So in this form, Naruto's jutsu are augmented with large amounts of natural energy to make them stronger. Naruto's sensory skills are also heightened. I mean, he was able to sense Black Zetsu's intent to stab Madara despite being much further away. Though that could be Kurama's ability to sense emotions, not Six Paths Sage Mode. Six Paths Sage Mode also gives users the ability to levitate and possess the truth-seeking orbs. This form can only be unlocked once one possesses the chakra of all 9-tailed beasts. so only Naruto and the Ten Tails Jinchuriki have ever unlocked this form. The Rinnegan, on the other hand, provides the user with a whole lot of abilities like manipulating gravitational forces, absorbing chakra and ninjutsu, augmenting one's body to form mechanical weaponry, summoning a variety of monsters, being able to rip someone's soul out of their body, swapping your position with objects, manifesting clones in a limbo dimension that can interact with your opponents, and if you possess a Tomoe Rinnegan, you also possess the most advanced genjutsu possible. The Rinnegan is even more rare than the MS and can only be unlocked by recreating the sage's chakra by combining the chakra of both his sons, or their reincarnates. Now, going back to which is the better power-up, it's not an easy question to answer. Both abilities are godly. I mean, they were both handed down to Naruto and Sasuke by the sage himself. The truth-seeking orbs can nullify all jutsu, the Rinnegan can absorb them, 6-pass Sage Mode can heal any injuries, so could the King of Hell. So it's hard to put one on top of the other. I will say that the 6-pass enhanced Rinnegan could have the edge in the visual jutsu aspect at least, since Sasuke could withstand the infinite Tsukuyomi while Naruto was susceptible to it. Also, Sasuke could trap all the Bijus simultaneously in a Genjutsu and absorb their and Naruto's chakra with ease. But anyways, this is where the video comes to an end. And yeah, Mr. Krabs would probably decimate Plankton, unless Plankton had some prep time. Make sure you check out the Akatsuki Iceberg video. We're trying to get that video to 100k so you could be part of that great change. And other than that, we'll talk soon.